just need to get water really fast.
You guys, let's find a seat so we can get started here on time. Hurry and find your seats.
Hey, Sid.
Good job, you guys. We're just about there.
Sorry, I just have
Wow, look how quiet you guys are. I didn't even say we were starting yet. This is great. All right, you guys, let's go ahead and get started. This week's Jet Talks, or the Jet Talk has been about gratitude. It's been one of my favorite ones. I love gratitude. It's something that I need to practice more and more every day. And it's been a really good reminder for me. So, as always, I hope that you can get something out of the Jet Talk. But like I said before, I can't control that. You guys can take what you would like from it. But my hope is that you do. I want to start out today by telling you a story. An experience that I've had. So, I grew up in a family where we went to the lake all the time. I grew up wakeboarding, water skiing. I grew up going to Lake Powell. And 10 years ago, back in 2009, we were at Lake Powell. And this particular Lake Powell trip was a great trip. There weren't any major storms. And if you guys are familiar with Lake Powell, a lot of times you'll have really big windstorms and rainstorms, right? So this particular trip was really good. The last day, we were packing up the houseboat, and we were getting ready to take the houseboat back over to the dock. Usually when we do that, there's a few of us that go into the ski boat so that we can take a few last runs, right? We can get a couple last runs in wakeboarding or skiing or whatever. So of course I decide to go on the ski boat because that seems more fun. So we're on the ski boat. Everyone else on the boat had taken their turn. And a couple of my cousins said, "Hey Gina, why don't you go?" And to be honest, I didn't want to go because the water wasn't just perfect, right? I'm kind of a water snob. The water has to be really smooth for me to go. So I said, "No, it's okay, I don't want to go." And they said, "Come on, Gina, you just need to go. It's your last run." So I said, "Okay." So I hopped into the water, put on my wakeboard, and I started to wakeboard. So wakeboarding is something I had done for a really long time. It's kind of like riding a bike. I didn't really need to think a whole lot about it. For those of you who are familiar with wakeboarding or water skiing, sometimes when your grip gets tired, okay, what do? I'm going to show you what you do. This is a wakeboarding rope right here, okay? So I was getting a little bit tired and I wanted the water to smooth out. So I put the rope in my elbow just like this. That frees up my hands so I can rest. So at this point, I'm standing behind the boat, holding on to the rope like this. Okay? I wasn't really paying attention to what was going on behind the boat. I was looking over the beach. I saw some people on the beach, and I was paying more attention to that. I'm not really sure what happened at that time. I don't know if the boat suddenly sped up, or a big wave came, or what happened. To be honest, I can't really remember. But I crashed really, really hard. I hit the water probably harder than I ever had before, and it was a really freak accident for me. When I hit the water, I was in quite a bit of pain. I couldn't get my arm out of the handle. And finally I was able to straighten my arm just a little bit and release that handle from my arm. When I came up above the water, I expected my arm to be gone because that's how painful it was. And when I came up above the water, I looked and I saw my arm and I started to cry. Because in that moment, I was grateful that I had my arm. My arm looked mangled. I looked at it and I had a big swell on the side of my forearm that was the size of a softball. I had a big swell at the bottom of my forearm on my wrist that was the size of a golf ball, and I had another really big swell on the side of my hand by my pinky. We hurried and went up to the care clinic at Bullfrog. I call it the I don't care clinic because they don't really have anything in there. They don't even have an x-ray machine. So they gave me some Demerol and rehydrated me because I was going into shock, and they told me to go to the ER. A few days later, we finally got the diagnosis. What had happened was that handle grabbed a hold of the belly of my muscle and scraped the muscle all the way down, and it balled up at the bottom of my arm. And I started working with my hand therapist and my orthopedic surgeon, and they couldn't perform surgery because the muscle didn't detach from the origin. When the muscle detaches from the origin, the muscle will roll up, it'll ball up, and you can stitch it back up. Mine didn't detach, it just shredded the whole muscle down. And it was in a big ball down here. So they were trying to figure out how are they going to get the muscle back up to where it needed to be, and if they were going to be able to do that, if I would ever really be able to use it again. After the x-rays and the MRIs, the surgeon told me that I was really, really lucky to still have my arm. And he told me that the handle missed this middle nerve on my wrist. It missed it by 1 or 2 millimeters. If that handle would have grabbed onto that nerve, my hand would have been crippled forever if it would have severed that. So in that moment, I felt gratitude again that I still had my arm. Not really knowing if I would have use of it ever again, they told me that it would take me 1 to 3 years for the pain to go away, and it did. It took about 18 months until my arm wasn't tender to the touch. To this day, it's numb because it severed all the nerves. It took me 5 months of pretty intense therapy to get my arm to where it was just working. I couldn't rotate, I couldn't do anything with my arm. I couldn't move anything. And I wanted to tell you about one of the most memorable days that I had in therapy. My certified hand therapist had been in the business for 30 years. He'd never seen this injury. And he kept telling me, Gina, everything's going to be okay. We're going to get this figured out. And on the first day that they did this procedure called A-stem, he would get his tools and he would dig into that raw muscle right on the bottom of my wrist, and he would scrape it back up to try to create the muscle where it should be. And that first day that he did that, I couldn't help but cry because it was so painful for me. And after he scraped my arm, he looked at me and he started to cry too. And I had so much gratitude for him in that moment because he was with me. He sat there with me. And that's all I needed at that time to feel okay. And I remember thanking him all the time for helping me. I thanked him every time I went in there because I'm so grateful, not just for the fact that I now have probably 80 to 85% use of my arm back, but that he sat there with me and he cared about me. What got me through all of those moments of therapy, and still what gets me through to today was those little moments of gratitude that I could have, that I could show. I was grateful for just little tiny things, little tiny bits of progress. I was so grateful when I could finally give a thumbs up. That was a really big step for me. So I wanted to show you a picture of what I still do today to show gratitude for my arm and for my physical body. I'm not perfect at taking care of myself, but I try my best because I'm so grateful for what I have. I want to be able to wakeboard and water ski for the rest of my life because I'm thankful. So this year, interestingly enough, on the 10-year anniversary on July 8th, I was at Lake Powell. And I was trying to decide what I was going to do on that day to honor my hard work and to honor my arm and to show gratitude. This is what I did on that day. That was a pretty sweet moment for me, and so was this. I got to wakeboard, and I got to use my arm in a way that I had dreamt all of those days in therapy. Gratitude is what pulled me through all of that. And obviously by my emotion today, you can tell that I'm still so grateful. It's not happiness that brings us gratitude, it's gratitude that brings us happiness. A lot of people think it's the reverse, right? Gratitude is a habit, it's something we need to practice. Let me give you a few examples. So we can set goals to show and increase gratitude. One of the things that we can do is we can write in a daily gratitude journal. Even if we're just doing this twice a day, let's say we wake up first thing in the morning and we write down something that we're grateful for. Okay? It'll change how we feel throughout that day. I would suggest doing it in the evening too, right before you go to bed. Think about something you're grateful for and write it down. Create a gratitude journal. The second one on there I love so much. Thank people in your life. When you're thanking people in your life, you're doing two things that are essential for happiness. You're showing gratitude, and you're also creating a connection with that human being. We need gratitude and connection with people to be happy. It's not just something it's a nice thing. It's actually something that's essential. They've been doing a lot of research on this lately. Make a gratitude calendar. Use social media to share your gratitude. I know a lot of people around this time of year, around Thanksgiving, they like to write what they're thankful for on Facebook or, I don't know, whatever the things are you guys use. I don't know what they are. I'm old, so I use Facebook. What do you guys use? Instagram and Snapchat? Oh yeah. MySpace? Okay. Whatever you're... That's an old one. You tricked me. Whatever it is you guys use on social media, okay? It is a good idea to write down what you're thankful for, okay? I know that this is something that I personally would like to work on, especially on the days when I'm not feeling great, right? So let's look at what gratitude does for us. Okay, these are what the studies have shown. I don't know about you, but I would like all of these. It boosts happiness, it fosters physical and psychological health, it shifts attention away from resentment and envy, it alleviates depression and anxiety, it increases your good hormones like dopamine, serotonin, and oxytocin, it builds enduring personal connections, it increases your energy, and it decreases stress. Okay? This is exactly what increased gratitude can do for all of us. So this is a picture of a little island in the Pacific called Aitutaki. How many of you have heard of the Cook Islands? Raise your hand. Okay, a few of you. So the Cook Islands is a little group of islands in the Pacific. A long time ago, I'm not even going to tell you what year it was because it doesn't matter. That's my secret. A long time ago, I was called to serve an LDS mission. And I got called to serve in the New Zealand Auckland mission. Part of that mission covered these islands. One day I got a call from my mission president and he said, you're going to go serve in the Cook Islands and you're going to serve in Aitutaki. And I took one look at that picture and I said, this is going to be the greatest moment of my life, right? I'm pretty sure everybody would want to live there. I did. I still do sometimes, okay? So I fly out to this little island. If you guys can look on the right-hand side of the screen there, do you see that little, it's a dirt runway. I don't know if you guys can see it from here. You can see that little straightaway on the side. It's a dirt runway. That's where the airplanes land on this little island, okay? This is really what it looks like. I took that with my camera. So I was really excited to come out to this little island. So when I landed on this dirt runway, I was looking around and I couldn't find the airport. Well, there it is. That was the airport. I mean, how silly of me, right? There was the airport. So I went over to the little grass hut and I picked up my suitcase. I remember that night we went and ate dinner at some people's houses, and they served some food to us. I'm not really sure what it was. It was some noodles type of thing with some, it looked like a boiled bush or something. I don't even know what it was. But they served it to me and they didn't give me any utensils. They just used their hands out there to eat. Okay, so I'm eating with my hands. I'm trying to figure out where I just landed and what's going on. I'm having a little bit of culture shock. Okay? That night, the first night in the Cook Islands, it was about 1 o'clock in the morning, probably, and my light turned on in my room. And I looked over at my friend and I thought it was her and she thought it was me, and it wasn't either of us. And then I looked over at the door and there was a man standing in my room. So my companion, thank goodness, she was straight from Samoa. She was a strong Polynesian chick. She got a hold of her Samoan stick broom and she chased this guy right out of that room. And I'm like, I don't even know what's going on. I still don't even know what's going on with landing on the dirt runway, okay? I still don't even know what's going on with me eating with my hands, okay? So that was my first day in the Cook Islands. That experience on that first day was really hard. I laugh about it now, but it was really scary for me, right? And I would talk to my friend, and we would try to figure out how we were going to survive this little island. How in the world was I going to survive it? How we were the only missionaries on the island, and it's only 2 miles by 3 miles. It's not a big place. I could ride my bike around that thing 100 times in one day. Okay? There is such thing as island fever. So what we did is this is the main street there. They only have one paved road on the whole island, and that was it. So that was the main street. We would find funny things to do. We'd go try to climb coconut trees, and I don't know. I don't even know what we did out there because there's nothing to do, but we did that. We found random little canoes to sit in. This is what the people used to use to fish in. Okay? We would try to go find really cool trees to try to climb, but we never got very high. Some people over there, they were trying to train us how to climb coconut trees. Those are really hard to climb, by the way. I only got like 3 feet up, I think. This wasn't ours. We weren't lucky enough to have a little motorized scooter. Blair Hendricks. Great, thank you. So we borrowed this from a friend because we ran out of ideas. So we tootled around on this little thing. That was a fun day. That day we also drove up to, this is the post office. Little grass hut for the post office. So that day that we had the little moped, the little motorcycle, we had ran out of ideas of things to do. And so we decided to go to the dentist because it seemed like a fun idea. Because there's nothing else to do. So we went to the dentist. And I walked in this little door, and there was a guy standing in there, and I said, I need to see the dentist. And he said, I am the dentist. And guess who didn't have any teeth? The dentist. And I thought, I'm not sure if I want to get my cleaning done here. But I thought, well, this will be an experience. So I don't know if you can tell in this picture, but there's not a headrest on the little dentist bed thing. So I held my head up the whole time while he just brushed my teeth for me, basically, and said, you're good. Because I have more teeth than him, so he doesn't really know what to do with me, right? So in that moment, I was like, I'm so grateful that I have teeth. And I'm so grateful for dentists back home. In the United States, we have real dentists that can take care of your teeth. They don't just yank them out, right? And I was actually grateful in that moment that I didn't have a cavity because he probably would have pulled it. He probably would have just taken it out. I wanted to show you a picture of this. When I was out there, I had a little crash on my bike. Okay? I wasn't being very smart one day. I was riding along, not really paying attention, and I actually ran into my friend's bike, and I hit the ground instantly and sliced my chin and my ankle. And this funny little island lady comes running out, and she's trying to stop the blood, and she's hollering for people to call the ambulance, because this is like a major deal over there that someone crashed on their bike, right? So I'm like, no, don't call the ambulance, I'm fine. Anyways, next thing I know, there's a little white minivan that pulls around the corner, and it's honking its horn, okay? And it has a Red Cross spray painted on the side of it. And I was like, that must be the ambulance. Perfect. So I hopped in. Can you see how rusted out that is? I hopped in that little ambulance, and it took me up to the hospital. And I got up to the hospital, and that's the hospital. There's the ambulance. Okay? And so I'm sitting in there, and as I'm laying on the bed, about ready to get stitched up from the doctor that was about 4 feet tall, okay? He stitches me up, and there was little lizards running across the ceiling. In that moment, I was really grateful for the healthcare system that we have in the United States. Okay? I had a lot of experiences on that island. It got to be really difficult to be out there. For example, we went to the store one day to try to buy cheese. Something pretty simple. They had run out of cheese and they had run out of noodles. I was so excited because I was going to make myself a normal meal. And they said, I'm sorry, we don't have any. The boat doesn't come in until maybe between 2 and 5 days. So we had to wait for that boat to bring the food in before we could have our food. We relied on that boat. And so guess what I had gratitude for in that moment that got me through those times? My banana plantation in my backyard. On this island, we had bananas, and so I ate a lot of bananas because everything else didn't taste good. So I became really thankful for all of the little things. I was really thankful for my bike. I was really thankful for just normal food like a banana. The last picture I want to show you is a picture of this cute little woman. Her name's Sister Mendenhall, and I want to tell you about her before we finish. I called her on the second day that I was there, and I cried with her because I was struggling so much. I called her the second week I was there, and I called her the third week I was there. And I said, I don't know how I'm going to make it through this, but I'm grateful that I can talk to you.
You killed me so fast.
After 3 months of being on that small island, it was really difficult. I flew back into New Zealand, and I had to take a few days to take a deep breath. But this cute little lady, Sister Mendenhall, I still thank her to this day. I thank her every time I see her. When I bump into her at Gold's Gym, because she goes, I thank her. When I see her at the store, when I bump into her, I thank her and I hug her. And I have so much gratitude for this woman. And because I do that, I have increased my connection with her, and I have increased my gratitude. The picture of that island, this is the last thing I'd like to share with you, is an analogy. A lot of times in life, people come across as if their life is beautiful and perfect, just like that island, right? A lot of times that's the case. But what we really don't know is the truth of what's going on with that person. That person might be struggling every day to show gratitude, small bits of gratitude, just to get through every day, just like my experience on that island. And I hope you guys can remember that when you see people and they look like they're perfect, chances are they're not. Tell them you're thankful for them, increase your gratitude, and increase your connection to human beings. Thanks for coming today.